Hey, hey, how are you doing? It's Allison, Sunshine Girls Painting.
And I'm Tone, the Sun and Sunshine Girls.
Yes, he is. But you all know that by now. Anyway, I hope you're having a really, really great day, given that summer is slowly coming to an end.
What are you talking about? It's 28 degrees outside.
I know, but we've talked about this before. All of a sudden, it's rainy season, and that always makes me super, super sad. But you know what doesn't make me sad? You know that song, Dance Monkey? The woman that sings it, her name is Tones and I. So we have a Tones and I. So every time I hear that Dance Monkey song, dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh, I always think of Tone and me, and it's kind of fun. Anyway, I just thought I would share that. All right, what we want to talk to you about today is paint failure on a house, how it happens and what to do about it and why it's a problem. So first of all, the reason it happens on a house is often because we just don't see things. I was reading an article recently. I guess it wasn't all that recent. It was a while ago, but I was reading this article and it talks about how you don't actually see your house, that you don't actually see the things around you, the tree in your front yard, the pavement at the front of your house, the mall when you're pulling up to it, that sort of thing. You don't actually see it. Your brain just knows it's there, and it's like, once it's accepted the fact that that is part of your existence, it just doesn't see it every time. So that we have the capacity and the space to see the new things that could be dangerous or a threat. And that's why people will say, oh my God, I just came home last week and my whole house is peeled. It wasn't doing this last week. But in fact, it was. It's just when the house registered in your mind's eye, it wasn't peeling. And that's why we always say, make a date with your house. Totally, once a year, get very, very, very focused on your house and what it is that it looks like. And that will help you get to your house before it starts peeling, because once a house starts peeling, it gets complicated and it gets far more expensive. So why the peeling? So one of the things that happens is when your house is painting, and it actually impacts the coat going on next. So do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So we have to make sure as painters that we know what product was on it beforehand, because not everything sticks to everything. For example, oils, like a semi-gloss oil, is really hard to cover with a latex. A lot of times it ends up scraping off because there's not enough to bite. Part of that is the sheen. Part of it is the product. So we really have to make sure that we do sanding to get a scuffed surface so that the paint actually has something to bite into.
Yeah, there's that, but I'm not sure what that has to do with peeling paint.
Oh, you said prepping these.
No, I said, why is paint a problem when peeling paint a problem when we put on new paint?
Because we don't know when it's going to end. We could peel a whole wall, so there is that problem too.
You're not explaining it to me, you're explaining it to them. Come on now. I know why it does it. You know why it does it. We're sharing with them tips and tricks. So what is the problem when paint is peeling? With putting new paint on top of it?
If we don't prep it, our paint will stick to the paint that's currently peeling, and when our paint dries, it shrinks, and it'll potentially cause the paint to peel up more that wasn't currently peeling before we put the paint on.
Do you want me to answer this question?
Clearly, you don't think I'm giving the right answer, so
it's not that you're giving the wrong answer. So what happens is you have a board, and the paint starts peeling off. Right? We scrape off everything we can see that's peeling, but that doesn't mean that 2 inches over where it looks like it's solid is still adhering. And so when we put our paint over top of it, we can guarantee that our paint will stick to the paint that's still on the wall, but we can't guarantee that the paint on the wall will continue to stick to the paint below it or the substrate below it. When we put new paint on a surface, as it dries, all paint does this, it shrinks to some extent. And when it shrinks, it can lift off and leave these little bubbles if the paint below isn't stuck properly. So that's the concern with peeling paint, is it's easy enough to get rid of the paint that we see as peeling, but the areas that look like they are adhering may or may not actually be adhering, but we can't see through those layers of paint to see if they're stuck. So we did a mall, Rutherford Mall, North Town Center, once, and we prepped it all properly. We put our paint on, and the next day when we showed up, there was blisters all over. When we peeled off the blister, you could see that our paint had stuck to the paint that was there because the back side of the blister was the old color. But the prep work hadn't been done properly on the previous coat. And so when our paint went on it and dried, it lifted it up. And so while we couldn't see it was peeling or going to peel because it hadn't stuck properly, there was nothing we could do about it because we can't put on any product that's going to penetrate through to the product that's already on there to make sure it sticks. It just doesn't work that way. So there's always that risk when we have peeling on a house that other areas that don't look like they're peeling may start peeling. Yeah?
Yes.
All right. Well, you can talk about the next one, to sand or not to sand.
We're talking exterior jobs, yes?
Yeah.
So we're often asked if we're going to power sand surfaces that have been peeling or flaking, that are rough, that do have an elevation difference because of the previous paint job. They just scraped it and then painted over top of it. So typically we say no, we don't do it. If you ask us to do it and you're willing to pay for it, because it does get a little pricey, because it's a lot of man hours to try and sand it all down, get it all down to one level. And what you're doing is, if you have a comb face, you're going to flatten out parts of that comb face.
What's a comb face?
Your exterior trim. Comb face is like a rough cut finish look of wood. And then you have your other trim, which is like a smoother cut, like planed hardy board type look. If you start sanding down your comb face, which is a really rough texture, you're going to get flat spots. And then that's just going to look spotty, and it's not going to look any better than it did before. Yeah.
So you're just going to trade one problem for another. You're going to trade that. It's not a perfectly flat surface because the paint has peeled, and that look that's left behind, we call scabbing. Tone, you call it?
I call it an elevation difference.
Right. And so if you look at your paint surface, this is when it's been painted, and then you peel it, and now this is the bare surface. There's that slight difference between the height of the existing paint and then the paint that peeled off. So it's called scabbing or elevation.
I just call it elevation differences.
Yeah. But when you're at the curb side, and it's always curb appeal is what we're looking for, protection curb appeal on the outside of a house, you're not really noticing it. And to tell you the truth, most houses that have wood on them, as opposed to hardy siding, will have some level of scabbing if it's been around for a while. And it's very, very common. It's highly unusual for us to see a wood-sided house without some level of scabbing on it. And you're better off to sort of risk a blister coming up where the peeling hasn't happened than to pay all of the money to get everything sanded down when there may or may not be a problem.
Yeah.
So there's that. I've had the company, we've had it just over 20 years, and I painted 5 years prior to that. And I've never had anybody willing to pay us to power sand their whole house. So.
And it adds extra work too, because you have to put on a primer coat on top of the bare wood that you just exposed. So now you've got 3 coats on top of all the manpower and labor that you have trying to get it down to that. Yeah. So that question comes up quite a bit. Yeah.
So then one of the things we do to get rid of the peeling paint is power wash.
Yes.
So you want to talk about that, maybe the pressure that we use, why we use it, the intent of power washing?
So what's always really good to know about the power washing is it helps prep the surface of a house to be painted. There's always dirt or debris that you may not see with your naked eye, but it's there. And it will affect the adhesion of our paint to the wall. So with power washing, it's more of a heavy rinse than a power wash. So we're spraying with about 1,500 to 1,800 psi, pounds per square inch of water that's hitting the wall after we've washed, sprinkled bleached TSP and water on it. What that does is it kills all your organics. It helps wash clean efficiently and make paint ready. People wipe the walls inside of the homes with TSP to help get rid of grease and all that stuff.
Yeah. But you do want to be careful about that, because if you leave a residue of TSP, it can actually create problems with adhesion. So TSP, we'll have to do another maybe Facebook Live about that. But how does power washing play a role with actually peeling?
Right. So the nice thing about that is it adds a pressure that we might not be able to get with our hands and our scrapers. So it is our first line of removing flaking paint.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is it goes in, we blast everything off as much as we can with the water to get it ready.
Yeah.
There's
that creating that balance between getting the peeling paint off, having enough pressure to get the peeling paint off, but not so much pressure that we actually damage your substrate.
Yes.
All right. So it is kind of a, you kind of do have to know what it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. We've been on to lots of homes where homeowners have done it, and they have these lines running through their siding because they just had too much pressure. So there's that sort of balance to find.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then with water, what it does is it gets into the wood, it soaks in, and then when it starts to dry, it expands. It expands. And it encourages more peeling, which is always good. And people call us like, well, you didn't get enough off of the power washing. Well, I promise you, I got everything I could. Mm-hmm. Without damaging your substrate, I did everything I could. Mm-hmm. The great thing about the water is it then encourages more lift, which we may not have seen prior or might not have worked. So then we get into a point where the paint starts peeling off in different areas that we didn't know wasn't adhering. So it is our first line of removal and a insurance that we do get everything before we start painting.
Yeah, well, we get as much as we can. Yeah. And that's the great thing about the power washing is it does encourage lift. We want to see that. We want, after we've power washed, to see some of that lift come up because it's lift, like Tom was saying, and I was mentioning at the beginning, that's lift you can't see that looks like it's stuck. But once we can get that water in behind encouraging more lift, it will actually allow us to expose more of the problem area, and we can just have a better chance of those blisters coming up and future failure. Yeah. And then the last thing we want to talk about is the best time to notice or to the best time to paint a peeling house.
Yeah, right away.
Well, before right away. Yeah. We want you to... The best time to paint a peeling house is before it starts peeling. Yeah. And the best way to do that is to have a date with your house and really start inspecting those different areas. Look for those problem spots. It's just so much cheaper to paint a house when there's no failure. The results are better. Visually, it's better. There's going to be less cupping of any wood you have on your house. You know when wood dries out a lot and then the siding can start looking like this? We call it cupping. So you can get that happening too. So the best thing you can do for your house, the most affordable thing you can do when you're maintaining your house is to have a date with your house. I know we say it all the time, but have a date with your house and make sure it's staying healthy. Look for things like peeling so that you can deal with it before it becomes a bigger problem.
And actually take the time to look, because there's been a lot of times I've gone into people's homes and pointed things out before we've even started painting. And these people have said they're super conscientious about looking at the walls. And I pointed something out like, oh, that was you guys. We haven't touched anything yet. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, but I would pay attention to my walls. It could have only been you guys. So really, you might pay attention to your walls, which is great. But like, take a good look at how you look at your walls, because you may make it difficult for a painter in the future, or anybody for that example, for that part. You know, electrician comes in, replaces the plug or whatever, and there was a cut behind the faceplate you didn't know about. Might not have been them, but they're going to have to take the blame for it because of that. So really, really take a good look at your home. Don't just think you know, actually know.
Yeah. Well, and that is easier said than done.
Totally.
I was doing an estimate for a woman today, and I was asking her questions about the outside of her house, and she's like, oh, I didn't even know I had that on my house. Right. And she's lived in the house for 5+ years. And she didn't actually know there was parts of her house that I was asking questions about. And she's like, oh, yeah. So it was a really interesting conversation. But even when you're getting an estimate, whether it's with us or somebody else, have that really good, solid conversation with people so that the painter's the expert, right? The painter is used to looking at all of these things in your house. And so use their expertise to really help you see your house further.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And another thing, too, that I didn't mention as well is that our paint, after first coats, even sometimes second coats, like water, encourages lift.
Mhm.
And there's not a whole lot that we can do about it except come back and try and fix it.
Mhm.
We do try to point out to everybody, hey, this is a potential problem. We don't know until we're finished. We can't account for that.
Yeah.
So be aware that sometimes if we leave a house with a first coat on it and there looks like the scraping hasn't been done, it probably has.
Yeah, because the water in the paint, the latex
Yeah.
paint, acts a lot like the water in the power washer. It gets them behind, it encourages lift.
Mhm.
And so while it doesn't happen quite as often as straight up water, it does still happen when it comes to paint. And we carry on and we scrape if more scraping needs to be done.
Mhm.
But in order to avoid all of that, date your house.
Yeah.
Really, really pay attention to it. You know, it's a really important investment that you have. And the best thing that you can do is stay really present with your house and the health of your house.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That's our tip and trick. And I'm not going to sing to you anymore. Anyway, stop with the making faces.
Actually, I was mouthing words. But...
Okay, well, you were making faces too, because that wasn't your regular face. Anyway, I hope you all have a really, really great day. And again, if you have any questions about anything that you're hearing here, feel free to reach out. We are happy to answer any and all questions, even if you're not our client. It doesn't really matter. I think it's just education is a really important part of what we do.
Yeah.
So feel free, reach out. I'm Allison, Sunshine Girls Painting.
And I'm Tom.
Open up your house.
Let your sunshine in.
There you go.